All right, here we go. 3, 2. Yeah.
That was a good one. And I like the yeah added to it. Yeah.
Well, you know why I'm happy? Because we got goddamn football this month.
We do.
We got football.
It's August.
So, all right. So I am reaching now. I've been very excited for about 6 weeks, which I say every time we do this.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting a little nervous. Now I get like a little jittery, like there's a lot of work, it's a lot of fun. But now I'm getting like, well, you know, the whole marriage thing, you're like, yeah, this can be great. And then it's like, oh my God, this is kind of real. Like our weekends are going to be very committed to this. And there's a lot of like, that sounds really bad. Like that's coming out in a way like to my marriage that I probably not meaning it to. But I am excited, but I'm also kind of anxious now because we're like 3 weeks from week 0 being a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe it's here. It's like role reversal, though, because a couple weeks ago, you were really excited, and I was like, we have a lot of planning to do. I'm very nervous. Now I'm like, the plans are set. Let's roll. Let's football. I'm ready.
Yeah. I know I'm ready, too. This is very exciting. Like, right before this, turned in my first locks of the week of the year with Bleacher Report. So go read it. Share it. It is Heisman. It's always weird, like locks of the week. Yeah, so it'll be out. Exactly. Yeah. So it is Heisman, which is very interesting. And then I am now working on win totals, which is one of my favorite things to bet. We'll talk about that today because we are doing your conference, the Pac-12. Do you feel good when
Conference of Champions?
It's just the conference. It's a weird year. Like looking at it, I'm really struggling with the Pac-12. I'm actually very excited to have a sane USC conversation. But I'm intrigued where you're going with the Pac-12. Of course, Arizona, but we have to start with Nick Saban, right? So Nick Saban appearing on, I don't know, radio, essentially called last year a rebuilding year, which is getting some interesting response.
Yeah.
Because it is sort of a slap in the face to Georgia, and also I think he's completely right.
Yeah.
I think I actually called last year rebuilding year for Alabama like dozen times. So you are a resident Nick Saban
enthusiast.
Perfect. I was going to say homer. Enthusiast is so much better. What were your thoughts on the comments there?
I love it. I love the fact that like that's such a like power move, but he said it in a way that people can't, like you said, he's not wrong. Like it was a rebuilding year, but by any other team's standards, that's a very successful year.
They're going to be so much better on defense. The interesting thing about the rebuilding year is like he rebuilt this year with the transfer portal. Like it's a complicated statement when you actually look about how good they got like that by getting LSU's best cornerback and getting Georgia's best wide receiver and then getting one of the best running backs in the country. So I do think it is a hilarious. I don't necessarily know if he's doing that as a slight to Georgia. He probably is. He's a very calculated man.
That's the thing. It's not an accident that he said this. That is, I love it. Well, it's also a slight to everybody who's been like talking about him retiring and like putting that out there. And like, I think he just wants to rile people up, and I love it. I love every minute of it. Now, if this was another coach, I'd probably hate it, but I love every minute of him riling people up about things. And he's also writing a recruiting heater. Like, yes. I was looking at something earlier and it said like the Alabama class like a couple weeks ago was like 40th or something ridiculous. And now it's like back up to the top 2.
Number 1 on 24/7 Sports.
Yep.
I was just looking at that. And
it's funny to me because I wish I would have looked at it before this, but now I'm like, I want someone to do the math on, since he had that, I guess, public display of issues with Jimbo, how has A&M's recruiting and Alabama's recruiting been affected? And like, who's gotten more guys? Obviously, I know the answer to that portion, but I'd just be curious to see the numbers specifically on how much Nick has gained in terms of traction in recruiting. And it's so funny because people were like, we talked about this a lot. He was criticizing the system with recruiting, transfer portal, all that stuff, but he's using it to his advantage. He's not saying that he's not going to use it. He's just saying this is how it is, and it's different than it was before. But he's completely showing out and saying, even though it's changed, I'm still the best at it, and I love that.
So I do too. So you look at their class, by the way. And again, if you're just listening to this podcast, we are not recruiting obsessed, but we like to acknowledge recruiting. It's laughable. I can't tell you about how good these players are, but I do find it funny that you look at like their top 6 players. Caleb Downs, a safety, committed 727, right? Tony Mitchell, another safety. Oh, by the way, they have the 2 top safeties in the country, 626. Top running back in the country, just committed 729. 717, 620, 711, 722, 81, 82. They got one of the best tight ends in the country who they stole from Ohio State. Yep. So y'all be talking shit is what Saban, we know that this is going to happen, right? They adapt, they evolve, and it's just very Alabama for him to just be, okay. This gets back to the whole offensive thing. One of my favorite Nick Saban quotes ever, is this what we want football to be? When he's talking about the hurry up and everything, and then lo and behold, Lane Kiffin happens, and then Alabama becomes the Alabama anew. So, yeah, they're on a roll, but I guess we shouldn't really be surprised, right? Like, this is what Alabama does. So, I expect that we'll be seeing more of that here in the coming weeks and months and everything else.
I also think he wanted to stop people from talking about like the revenge tour, because I know they've used that in the past as like an Alabama revenge tour or whatever. And I think he was like, last year was a rebuilding year. There's nothing to avenge here at this point. We're just going to get better. Yeah.
And they have, and they're going to be continuing good. I'm excited actually when we preview the SEC. But no, we are talking Pac-12. So this is your conference. Your commissioner.
You keep saying that.
I just like saying it. Well, when we do the Big Ten,
it's like a dig. That's your way of being like Nick Saban.
It's not,
you're throwing digs at me when I try to. It's your conference. Ha ha.
Well, it's like Iowa's my team, right?
Yeah,
like,
congratulations on your first sellout of a season since 2011, which I tagged you in today.
I just saw that on the old Twitterverse, which seems kind of surprising. I feel like Iowa needs to get its shit together and sell out some more games. Just saying. But in any event, and I also, by the way, learned that I have tickets 50-yard line for Iowa, Michigan this year, which I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be not a work trip. That is a problematic tailgating. What weekend
is that?
It is, I think it's October. Hold on. You're probably wondering, like, this son of a bitch is going to miss some work.
No.
What's that? But which I was just thinking now.
No, I'm wondering why you're not inviting your favorite podcast co-host.
Well, so I'm trying to figure out how many tickets I'm going to get. And there is a possibility that there may be more tickets in this situation. Okay. So Iowa, Michigan is October 1st, which should be really fun. Iowa at that point, they have San Diego State. I'm talking Iowa State, Nevada, Rutgers, Michigan.
I think I can do that weekend. My 30th birthday is a couple weeks after that. And so I will not be working on that weekend. And I'm having a lovely party. So, I know, right?
Either way, maybe this is the birthday present of watching Iowa and Michigan play football, which one could argue if that's a present at all.
I mean, I would argue that my first Big Ten experience would be.
That'd be a good one. Oh no, Iowa's a great place to watch football. I gotta digress.
Yeah, you need to, because also the wave, you know how I feel about things that are feels and cute and sweet. Like that would be a good gift. So just keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. It is a big birthday for me, so just keep that in mind.
I will. It is. Yeah, that's a big one. So all right, Pac-12.
To my conference.
Yes.
Pac-12.
So let's kick things off. Before we preview the Pac-12 as a whole,
yes.
Pac-12 Media Days.
Happened, yes.
What was the most meaningful takeaway from Pac-12 Media Days in your eyes? Because it's pretty quiet on the social media front.
I would say I'm really, really impressed with the commissioner of the Pac-12, basically saying, hold on, Big 12. You don't need to talk all this shit. Why are you talking shit? We mentioned on this podcast before saying it's kind of strange that the hill that the Big 12 wants to die on is we're good as we are. We don't need anybody from the Pac-12. It was a very strange hill to die on. And they sort of were throwing shade at the Pac-12 completely. And the commissioner of the Pac-12 was no, just because the Big 12 said they were open for business or whatever, the Big 10 did, or whoever, he was like, that doesn't mean we want to join. That doesn't mean we are in on this. Like, we think we have a good thing going over here. And basically, he, in an interview, said, I've had to defend our conference from the Big 12, and I think that's partially why things have been spoiled between those two conferences. So I think that there is a more of a finger on the pulse of the Pac-12 teams being like, hey, we want to stay together. We don't want to dissolve as a conference. If there are conversations that you're going to have to move to the Big 12, we want to try and figure out a way to keep you. More so than I would have thought. That to me lets me know that they are very much trying to keep everybody else there and not just become a garage sale for all the other conferences.
I have to imagine that has to be so stressful.
Yeah.
So stressful. And just in terms of like, it feels like the room for error at this point is so small that you have to keep everybody happy. Mm-hmm. You've got a television deal. It's got to be the Pac-12 as a whole. This kind of transitions into a really, into our preview. Well, first off, divisions are gone.
Yeah.
Like I think that's fascinating because other conferences are going this way. Pac-12 is just doing it now. So from a just a general football, like I think it's a really good thing that divisions are gone. It impacts betting and everything else. 2 top teams. I just find it fascinating that they could just eliminate divisions just like that. So it's going to be an interesting beta for the ACC and other conferences in moving forward. But I thought that was a really good decision that Pac-12 made.
Yeah.
The other part of this too, getting back to realignment, it is fascinating once again that the biggest storyline of a conference, well, 2 storylines to me. A, can it crack the college football playoff with one of these teams that we're going to talk about? And B, like what's the lingering does realignment have any sort of lingering impact on the season as a whole, knowing that USC and UCLA are bon voyage, and then what other teams are going to be doing that? So yes, the biggest storyline in my eyes are kind of like the non-football stuff, although you could argue the college football playoff is the most, the ultimate football stuff. So I think it'll be really interesting as a whole. The conference is at such this odd tipping point one way or another.
It is. And it's sad because I think a lot of it's going to overshadow the football that's played this year. And I mean, I will obviously give my take on whether or not I believe that they can crack the playoff. And
that's feeling not great. Just the way you say it.
It's feeling not great. It is not great. I don't think that there's an overnight fix for the stuff that's been compounding for years. And when you have 2 of your biggest schools leaving, and it's not even like a, hey, in 3 years, like sort of the SEC and the Big 12 situation. It's like it's next year and this is happening.
I want to hold off the playoff. Will a team make the playoff?
Yeah, we'll wait.
But and we'll go down the list. So we've got no divisions. We got to talk about USC.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. I am kind of floored at maybe not, at the betting support. And like, people think USC is going to be really, really good, like right away. So I want to go through some odds with you because I was looking at this pre-pod, looking at this week. There are 4 teams in college football with worse odds: Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, which are plus 175, plus 300, plus 400. You have Clemson at plus 1,000. Then you have A&M and USC at plus 2,500 to win the national championship. Caleb Williams is the third choice, to win the Heisman at plus 7,000. USC to win the conference, hold on, getting there, is a favorite now to win the conference.
Yeah.
So, okay, what do we do with this? Like, what I am really struggling. I want to get USC's odd. They are plus 220 and Utah's plus 250. So it's really close, right? But USC has gone from like this really struggle, and they could still be the struggling team, I guess is what I'm getting at, to the conference favorite in like 6 months. And I feel like that is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. It just goes to show you how little faith people have in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, Utah has been good. Like, they're a good football team. They've been a good football program for the past 5 years. Okay? At least. Washington, sprinkle Washington in there occasionally.
Yeah.
Things have changed at Washington. Oregon, obviously, things have changed there as well. Utah, things haven't changed, and there's always hype there, but it's just not enough. Like, they never do enough they always lose a game they're not supposed to lose, or, you know what I mean? Or they get to a situation where they could prove a point and don't. Like, there's just a lot of, that's just the way of the Pac-12, is like a lot of almost. And like I've said before, almost are not wins, okay? So I think for people looking at the Pac-12 as a whole, you look at Lincoln Riley, and despite not having great success making it to the college football playoff, he's gotten there before. He's won conferences. And I think that's where people are at, is like they view the Pac-12 as worse than the Big 12 in football, and are like, look, this guy can handle it. I think it, and to be fair, I'm sort of on that bandwagon. Like, I think Utah is like the main threat to USC, of course. But I don't think Oregon's a factor. I don't think Washington's a factor. Like, I don't think UCLA is a factor. So, well, I mean, it sort of makes sense. Like, you're looking at a guy who has the recipe for success, the funds for it, the recruiting for it in terms of transfer portal. Like, it makes sense that he can revive this pretty easily in that conference. So, yeah, I buy into the hype more than I buy into Utah, because I've seen Utah be pretty good, have the players, have the coach, and still not be able to be, quote, successful or crack the playoff.
Okay, so they added the Biletnikoff winner, a really good quarterback. And I think the most interesting thing about Caleb Williams was he was still really pretty raw. There was like some ups and downs. Yeah. I think he's going to be so much better. And they also added Travis Dye at running back. Like, they've got two really good wide receivers. I sort of am in the camp that you are, that while I'm hesitant because it feels too fast.
Yes.
There's like no reason this team shouldn't be good. The defense was like, I forget. It was past the top 100 in scoring defense. It's not going to be great, but they still have talent there. It's like you have four, Corey Foreman and former 4-star and 5-star guys that are, like, in theory, it's not there, but that's going to be the area of concern. But here's the other thing, Paige. So this schedule, right? You play Rice, you play at Stanford, you play Fresno, who's got some teeth to it. You play at Oregon State, which I think is actually a pretty intriguing game. Oregon State had some punch. Arizona State is going to be bad. You play Washington State. Then you play at Utah, October 15th. I think there's a really, very realistic chance that this team is unbeaten October 15th. Okay? And then after that, play at Arizona, no comment. You play Cal, you play Colorado. And then you end at UCLA.
Do you play Colorado at Colorado?
You play Colorado at home.
Okay.
So, like, they should win these games. Utah's tough. Playing at Utah is really tough.
Yeah.
At UCLA could be tricky. That's a team I like a little bit. I want to talk about. And then Notre Dame is going to be good. But, like, if they lose 4 games, if they lose 5 games, it's going to be a disappointment. If they lose 4 games, I think they're going to be disappointed too. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid, and I don't know how I feel about it. Right? Like, that's kind of where I am with USC.
Yeah. But to be fair, like, the bar has kind of been set low. Like, USC, like, to consider it a success, I think USC fans will be rational when it comes to, like, the success of Lincoln Riley. I know that sounds weird because you feel like, okay, the bar is set really high for them, but I think even if they fall below what their, like, real expectations are and what they really want to happen, even if it's not college football playoff, I think they're still going to be pleased with the fact that there's been movement forward instead of backwards, kind of like the last couple of years.
I think USC fans will be rational. I think other people are going to be out of their mind. Like, yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think USC fans will be like, I think they're already like, oh, thank God, because the recruiting is going to get better, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever. I feel like this now at the same point, like, you've got a Biletnikoff winner, and you've got this really amazing quarterback for 2 more years, you think, and so you have a window here that you want to take advantage of a special quarterback. We think. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think other people are going to be out of their minds. Now, the competition for this is a team that I've been back and forth with already a bunch, and that's Utah. So Utah I think, has maybe one of the most intriguing opening games, which is at Florida. Talk about a really cool, fun, out of conference traveling, and they go to Florida.
That's going to be a gambling nightmare.
I know. Hold on. Speaking of which, let's see.
That's going to be a gambling nightmare.
Speaking of which, so the Utah USC line right now, Utah is a 4.5-point favorite, which is a little surprising. So, okay. But just for some reference, the Utah-Florida game, Utah is a 2-point favorite on the road. So Utah last year, look, tremendous season. It has the huge lead in the Rose Bowl, just runs into all that offense. And I don't know. I mean, they were playing running backs at cornerback, which is one of the greatest videos, by the way. I forget his name, but watching him miss the tackles and try to cover like those star wideouts just didn't go well. But still, Utah had a really good year. Cam Rising at quarterback, Tavion Thomas at running back. Really good. Really good. So in my eyes, this is probably still the favorite. And yet, I think right now it does feel neck and neck. So what are your initial vibes on Utah heading into the season?
I feel like Utah defensively, I don't feel like, I know Utah defensively has the edge over USC, and that will obviously benefit them moving forward. But I like I said, I feel like Utah's been in this conversation for a while now. We've been having these same conversations, and it's the same stuff. And that game versus USC, I don't know. Oh gosh, I'm really drinking the USC Kool-Aid, and I don't want to, but I just feel like I've been maybe it's because I'm like a little bitter that I've been disappointed in Utah so much. You know what I mean? I mean, I've really bought into the Utah hype over the years. I have a really good friend, my like longest childhood friend, went to Utah. She married someone she met there. They're big Utah fans. I go to the Pac-12 championship game when it's in Santa Clara with them. And I've just been so disappointed in their performance that I think that's where I am just really hesitant because I feel like they've had these pieces for a while. And also I'm just still pissed about their coach being a jerk against Arizona, I think too. So maybe Jesus.
Okay. All right. So their season last year was fascinating. So they lose to BYU at BYU early.
Yep.
Okay. There's no shame in that. They lose at San Diego State, which turned out not to be a terrible loss, right? San Diego State was pretty good. They then won like pretty much everything. They lost at Oregon State, but at home, there were like home road splits, or just they're such a beast at home. They killed Oregon twice, 38-7, 38-10. Right? I mean, that was fascinating to see.
I actually remember those games just being like, this is getting out of control for Oregon.
And one of my favorite bets of the year was betting Utah against Arizona State at home. It was like, it just felt so good. I mean, that spread was 3, I think. I bet on a lot of Utah games. So I like this team a lot. I just, they got to eliminate the oopsies here. But
that's a Pac-12 way of life. You have your oopsies and you don't make the college football playoff.
That is it. They are like the microcosm. But they hung tough with Ohio State. I think this team's going to be a lot better. I don't know what we say
about almost.
I don't know what I'm going to do with this Florida game. I have no idea.
That seems like a game. Nightmare. You know what sounds funny is like this seems like a game that like Florida shouldn't win, does win, and then they just lose a shit ton of games.
Yes. No, that is exactly.
Also, the best part of this is like you could talk X's and O's all day, but if you watch college football enough, you know that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Florida wins a huge game with a new coach, and the quarterback plays great, and then they just like barely make a bowl. That is chef's kiss. Like that is perfect. Like that is perfect. All right. The other team that I'm excited to talk about a little bit is UCLA. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing with UCLA? Like, where are we at in the Chip Kelly UCLA thing?
He's on the hot seat for sure because you're going to go to the Big Ten, and if you can't win here with players, this team is made up of guys that he's brought in. This is his team. So at some point you need to prove that what you did at Oregon is possible here with recruiting and all of that stuff. But also, like, where in the world is Chip Kelly? Like, I forget that he's a college football coach still. Because I feel like we just saw so much of him at Oregon. And I feel like he's a completely different person at UCLA. Maybe that's just because, like, UCLA is, like, very traditional and Oregon's, like, super new and flashy. But it's the strangest coaching strain of all time, really, for me. But I truly believe that, like, he has to win this year or they're going to find somebody else. They're paying him a ton. I think he's, like, the highest paid, like, public.
Well, yeah, I was going to say pre-Lincoln Riley, yes.
Yes.
I mean, they did not have a bad year. What?
No, but they started off really strong and then they fizzled out.
So what really kind of screwed up everything? So they played in week 0. I almost just knocked my beer over. They played in week 0. They beat Hawaii. They beat the hell out of Hawaii, right? By the way, Team Hawaii in week 0. Spoiler alert. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but just saying. They beat LSU. That was the one where you're like, oh my God. Now LSU was trash. So it was kind of like
bad.
It was kind of like fake. And then they lose to Fresno. And they get crushed by Arizona State. And then they lose to Oregon. They lose to Utah. Close to Oregon. They get beat the hell out of by Utah. But like they had this really weird, they just absolutely doubled up. I forgot this. I had to look at this score. They beat USC 62-33 at USC. I forgot about that. That was like, good God.
Yeah.
That was bad. They beat Washington. So, the other thing that I like about them is, I will say, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I feel like he's been in school for 19 years, but he keeps getting better.
DTR. Yeah. I love that we can call him DTR and not have to say his full name. I wish more people would come up with, what do they call them? Acronyms for their names, because I can't say anyone's name. So I would appreciate if everybody could have like a cool DTR type of deal.
DTR, and he's good. And he's got a really good running back. And I think the thing about them last year, which I'm really curious by, like the defense, the offensive line has been like this running joke for 10 years for how bad it's been. Josh Rosen, you go back. It's been bad. The defense was finally good. Like not great, but good. So yeah, I think with a great quarterback and a great running back in that conference, it gets back to your Pac-12 point of like, why not them? But undoubtedly, are they going to lose some games that they shouldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be average.
Probably.
They'll be average. But I think if they win, I mean, I don't see them beating USC, but
I'm taking them over win total in our column, by the way. What's it at? Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up again. I thought it was 8.5. The last line I looked, I was line shopping around, but let me see here. Regular season wins, UCLA, perfect. 8.5, minus 115, over minus 105, under minus 115. Okay. So it's pretty close, right? That's like a coin flip. There's not a lot of juice there. So
hold on.
Are you going? You want to go schedule? 6, you want to just go down the schedule?
7, 8, 9.
That's where I was. The out of conference schedule sucks.
See, what they're gonna do is they're gonna lose to someone they shouldn't lose to. I'm hoping it's Arizona.
Oof. That would be definitely someone that should lose to, but like nice. Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama.
No. They win all of those games.
At Colorado, you win that. Washington at home, you should win that.
That's Utah, the one that might be tough for them, depending which one's a Friday night. Where's
it
the
is
Friday
Washington night? On a Friday night. Oh, it is true.
That's it. That's it.
But at least it's home though. It's home at least because you play at Washington on Friday night. It's like, I mean, that's so. Then you play though.
No, they're going to lose
Utah,
to Washington.
Oregon.
They're going to lose to Washington on a Friday night. Damn it!
Still one.
If that happens, I mean, honestly, the football gods are just—they don't even care what the football evil. Play is. It's just it's
and
written
you
ahead of time.
at home. So I like this team, but I'm kind of with you on the Chip Kelly thing. Like this was a giant in the sport, and he's just kind of chilling. Feel like just kind of easing into retirement, making a big chunk of money.
I feel like he doesn't actually care if he gets fired or
not. But he's done. Like last year was good because they had been so bad and mediocre, and then last year they were like, they got to a point of relevancy. Like LSU was like a moment early on in the year. I mean, even the Hawaii game, which was fun at the time. That was the easiest bet I think I won all year.
I can guarantee you what's going to happen is Utah it's going to be a close game with Florida. USC is going to still be getting its bearings, and they're going to look a little vulnerable at the very beginning of the season. And UCLA is going to beat all of those non-conference teams by a lot. And everyone's going to be on the UCLA bandwagon, kind of like we talked about last year. And then it's going to flip and it's going to be like, oh no, they're back to being UCLA that we've known. So that's certainly how the season's going to start.
I'm kind of buying them, though. Like, I kind of get it. I'm not buying them at the level of USC, but I actually think that could be a super fun game. So, all right, let's go down the conference a little bit. 2 questions.
Yes.
Oregon and Washington. Mm-hmm. Oregon is a team that I feel like I know very little about, other than I like the defense and I like some of the players on the defense. You've got Dan Lanning. They play Georgia. But still, there's been a lot of change here. It's a team that beat Ohio State pretty handily in Ohio State last year. And then Washington was dreadful. I mean, what the hell happened to them? Like, so you've got 2 teams that are kind of in the middle. My first question is, A, are they long for this world in this conference? And B, what do you like there or not like there? Because I honestly don't know what the hell to do with these teams.
So I'm going to be careful how I say this because I don't want it ever to be clipped out and used against me.
Oh, that's perfect. Clip this.
But if I had to buy stock in Washington or Oregon, I would buy stock in Oregon. I think that they will be good this year. I think they could potentially be in the conference title conversation. If USC doesn't figure it out, I think it could be Oregon and Utah.
Oregon's win total is 8.5 over -135, so under -8.5. So it's, it's not that far off from UCLA's, but definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to play Georgia, which is not
that sucks.
Ideal.
And
that's not great.
And if I had to choose which one of those 2 teams is going to leave the conference, if either of them leave, I would definitely pick Oregon to be the one to jump ship. I know the conversation around realignment has been Oregon and Washington going as like a package deal, but I don't know how, specifically to the Big Ten. I don't think the Big Ten needs Washington. I think they can take Oregon when they get Notre Dame and take Stanford as opposed to Washington.
Oregon is such an interesting team in general because it's like, from a desirability standpoint, you would think it'd be very high. Football, basketball is respectable, big money, Nike, great facilities. Like, it fits. I'm kind of with you there. I think both actually make some sense academically, whatever we want to say in terms of how they evaluate this process.
Academically.
I'm a Big Ten homer, right? That's true. I've got to be ready to take it. Wait till the Big Ten episode. I'm sure I'll be getting plenty. But I will say, from a football standpoint, Washington was a mess. You had the coach getting into fights with players.
Yeah.
Like a guy that they loved in Lake. And, I mean, they were abysmal offensively. Lost to Montana. Got absolutely destroyed by Michigan. Like, it was bad out there. I mean, This was a team that people really liked, that people were picking as like a sleeper for the playoff. They lost their last 4 games to Washington State. They got crushed. Colorado, Arizona State, and Oregon, right? They were actually competitive versus Oregon. I don't know if this is a team at all I can get behind. Like, I think it'll be better, but and actually, I forgot
because of the position that they were in. Like, they had built it up, gone to a college football playoff, had the recruiting poll, and really competed with Oregon, and then it just completely fell off.
I forgot that they had gotten Michael Penix from Indiana, who had some moments, got hurt, was good, had some moments. Like, he's fun. I mean, resident Big Ten homer, like, he's fun, but I still don't think it's going to go great. I think Oregon, you're going to learn a lot against Georgia. which of course the Lanning connection is like the obvious one. 17 points, by the way, is the current line. Oregon, Georgia. Where are you at with that? Yeah, 17. So Georgia's like lost 15 players to the draft.
That's going to be another thing is Oregon's going to, I don't see them getting blown out in that Georgia game. Like because we've seen Georgia play in, actually, I was going to say, we've seen Georgia play in non-conference games that are like the big, what is it, the Chick-fil-A kickoff games or whatever, and seem a little slow to start. But we've also seen the opposite. So, yeah, I think that Oregon is going to be a hard one to get behind, but I think seeing them against Georgia will be a very good, like telling point of like where they're at and how the season sort of goes.
All right. So do you want to talk about Arizona now?
Sure, we can.
Why are you?
It's just so funny because like in the doc, I put Arizona as a football team. It's a joke. I obviously am very proud Arizona alum. I'm wearing an Arizona shirt, but it's an Arizona basketball shirt. Shout out.
That's perfect. Actually, that is perfect. That's the preview. I'm wearing an Arizona basketball shirt.
Someone asked me on Twitter. I actually need to respond to them and tell them that I'm answering this on the podcast, but I'll respond on Twitter too. Arizona football schedule, and I think they asked, "What's the win total for them? Is there one?"
Well, so I'm looking at this. So they play. I'll give you some gambling. They play at San Diego State week 1. San Diego State is only a 6-point favorite, which sounds kind of funny. And maybe it may sound like I'm saying that disingenuous. I'm not. That's kind of an interesting line. Like, punt God and everything else. That's actually, I kind of like Arizona there is what I'm getting at. And then the win total. God, I love gambling. I'm going to control myself this time around, but I love gambling.
That's fantastic.
The win total is 3. Over 3, under 3 wins, -115. Over is -105. So let's go through Arizona's schedule. So if you get San Diego State, which I think you can get, you're in good shape. I don't think Mississippi State's going to go very well. So do we want to go 0-2 or 1-1? Let's go 0-2. Just to like worst case scenario.
Okay.
So North Dakota State is where things get very interesting for Arizona. Because y'all could very well lose that game.
That game. Yeah,
In fact, I think y'all are going to lose that game. Which isn't great.
Win 2 games.
That is
3 games.
That's a tougher out of comp. Why would you play North Dakota State? Who does that?
Mississippi State and
that's not
Mississippi State is because of the AD that our newest AD that is our current AD was the athletic director at Mississippi State.
So what are the games that you win? I think you may actually beat Arizona State.
Cal, Colorado, and Arizona State. Oh, beating Arizona State in football will feel so good again. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. If we lose every game and our only win is Arizona State, best year in a long time.
Boy, this has gotten...
We blew a 19-point lead on Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving. It was like the worst Friday or Wednesday of my life, whatever it was. It was horrible. It was horrible.
This stretch of schedule versus Oregon,
the Oregon
at Washington, versus USC, at Utah, at UCLA.
Yeah, that was awful. Awful. That's why I'm hoping we can squeak out 2 wins to start.
If you could I think you could beat San Diego State. I think that's like such a week 0 game that's in week 1. Like that. Sorry, that is like that would be
I
like
feel
a
like all
marquee
these
game
Arizona
in
games
week
are week 0 games. I'm like,
I think Mississippi State, at least you get it at home. Oh, you know what else I love seeing, Paige? 10 p.m. Eastern start times. 10 p.m. That game starts at 9 p.m. my time.
Wait, what day? Hold on.
Beers will be cracked for that game. I can tell you that right
now.
The
day after Thanksgiving is at 11 a.m. my time is Arizona State.
Oh my God.
Daydream.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I will be so obnoxious on Twitter. I think this is the year. I think this is the year that Arizona beats Arizona State in football. Clip it, producer Matt.
Yeah,
I said what I said. I'm going to regret
sad
that.
rivalries. Hashtag sad rivalries.
That's not a sad rivalry. How dare you cover that
no,
rivalry?
No. For to be clear, the rivalry is excellent.
Thank you.
This year, though, it's like it is
sadness amongst the team. Yes.
Yeah,
but
I think ASU is going to be
in football. Okay, so.
Oh no! I don't even want to. I don't even want to.
The landmine.
All right, before we make our picks. This is where our passions here intersect because I am a Big Ten homer. You are a Pac-12 homer. Mm-hmm. The Rose Bowl has always been one of the best televised things on television outside of the Masters.
Televised things on television.
Televised things on television. Yeah, this is not a margarita in a can. I swear. That's a bad way to
You should not have poked the bear to start by calling this my conference. I mean, I shouldn't be.
And I shit on the rivalry. There's a lot. I have this coming. Fair enough. But I think the Rose Bowl is doomed. Like long term, I think the Rose Bowl.
I'm so sad about that, but I do too.
So what? Like they went from caring like that this was going to prevent conference expansion and playoff expansion to being like, who cares?
Who cares?
The alliance is dead, and so. That does make me kind of sad because the Rose Bowl is visually the most beautiful football game of the year.
Yeah.
It does not matter.
It's sad too because that was like the number one thing we got asked. Like as soon as all of this conference realignment stuff happened, it was like, well, what does this mean for the Rose Bowl? I mean, realistically speaking, you could have the Pac-12 and the Big Ten still be in it, but the teams are not going to be good ones. So do we get like a year of UCLA and USC being in the Big Ten and having the Rose Bowl still be affiliated with the Big Ten and the Pac-12? I don't know. Because I feel like I don't want to put my money on that because I feel like bowls are going to completely change. Like this is probably the last year we get a relatively normal bowl season. After that, it's going to be mass chaos. Chaos. The sponsors, the TV deals, the teams and conferences that are involved in them, it is going to be mass chaos. That's the next thing to really be shaken up by all this paying players and realignment stuff.
No, totally. So, all right. Before we wrap up the Pac-12, you have on the doc, you have buy or sell Utah as the Pac-12 champ. I want to ask a question. Well, let's start with there. Buy or sell Utah, or are you fully engaged USC here?
I'm going to go fully engaged USC.
I think I am too. But I want to ask you a bigger question. Playoff team or no playoff team?
No playoff team. None.
I am kind of thinking about putting USC in the playoff. I'm kind of like full on losing my mind.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can. I don't think I'm
the
there
Pac-12
yet.
won't be in the playoff until all conferences don't have what are they called? Help me. Divisions. Like
divisions.
When it's divisionless and everybody has to play everybody, that's when the Pac-12 will get a team in because they will the pair. Well, I mean, actually, I don't know because they won't. Maybe they won't exist. But if USC was staying in
very morbid,
yeah, it was
very dark turn there.
Realistically speaking, if USC was staying in the Pac-12 and then everybody else did play in divisions and they rotated who they played and all of these things, and they had to play certain teams more often, we would see the Pac-12 in there because the Pac-12 teams only lose one game that keeps them out. Other teams will either repeat playing or the other teams will have to play the two of the good teams in their conference, not just the one. So that's what I'm getting at. But I don't think that the Pac-12, I don't think this is the year. I think USC will be in the conversation, but it'll come up strength of schedule. It'll come up, even if they're an undefeated Pac-12 champ, like I just know there's going to be a conversation, whether it be in the Big Ten or the SEC, where they have two teams that are way more valuable than adding the one Pac-12 team.
The other team I just want to shout out real quick before we make some bets, or at least I have a bet for you. Oregon State has become like my late night guilty pleasure.
Okay.
Sounds weird, but absolutely mean it 100%. They they're just fun to watch. Like they have been really fun to watch.
I'm so glad you brought this up because one of my best friends from college, her husband, and her dad both went to Oregon State, and her husband saw that we did the ACC preview and was like, I'm expecting some Oregon State love on the Pac-12 preview. So shout out Alex for that because they are fun to watch. They kind of make it exciting because you know that they can spoil a good team season, which they sort of did last year.
No, they won a bunch of games in a row.
Yeah.
I think it was Clay Helton. I mean, did they get him fired? I think that was it, where they beat the hell out of USC. You know, they losing to Cal. The problem is they lost back-to-back games against Cal and Colorado on the road. But they were fun. They are fun. So, they scored points. They've kind of reinvented themselves a little bit.
What you're saying is bet Oregon State at home.
Yes, I am saying that. And their quarterback is really good. Like they've got some good players. But that is not where I'm going with my bet. So Oregon State at 25-1 to win the conference, I could kind of get down with that. Like 25-1 is pretty good. So we talked about USC, Utah, Oregon. Next up, UCLA 9-1, Washington 14-1. No thanks. Oregon State 25-1, kind of. Arizona State at 25-1. You should invest your money in something else if you're doing that. That is a really bad decision. Washington State 45-1. Talk about a weird season. Cal 60-1. Stanford 90-1. What the hell happened to them? Colorado 250-1 and Arizona 250-1. I'll take a little sprinkle. UCLA 9-1. 9-1 for UCLA with like two really good quarterback running back tandem that they have.
If I was going to sprinkle, I'd sprinkle on Oregon. If I wanted to get a little spicy, where you're not picking
Oregon
USC or Utah.
Plus 280.
Yep.
God, it's two. So you have 220, 250, and 280 with Oregon. So Oregon, like, kind of been an afterthought, I feel like, in the offseason, because Utah was crowned one of our offseason champions, and USC, of course, is USC. So Oregon, I think, could be really good as well. I can't wait for that Georgia game. But, so UCLA at 9-1 is my sprinkle of the week. Which
I would wait until Oregon loses to Georgia to sprinkle a little on Oregon, because I feel like those will change when they lose to Oregon. People will get...
Yeah, that's a good... I like that. That is a solid... Because even if they get beat up, that is a degenerate move, but that's a good one.
Yep.
All right, so we also talk a little golf.
Yes.
We've got a lawsuit with the Live Tour, which is not surprising. But you have Phil Mickelson. It's
so annoying. Go ahead, tell me.
Well, they just want to play less. They just want to play less, but now they want to play on 17 golf tours. So you've got Phil Mickelson and 10 other golfers that are suing the PGA Tour. Mm-hmm. It's actually a pretty fascinating legal case because they're billing them. The PGA has billed them as contractors, not employees, and so I think they have a pretty good case. I'm not a legal expert. Do not follow my legal advice, but I am curious to see what happens. So what were your thoughts on this? Well, I kind of know where you're going with this, but what are your thoughts on this?
It's so stupid. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I just want out. Like, I don't want to deal with this. And it is a little ironic that they're suing the PGA for, like, mistreatment, basically, when, like, you're dealing with a government that, again, questionable moral. Like, it's a little weird. It's also very white privilege-y. Like, that is so privileged for you to be like, I've been disrespected by the PGA. Like, sure, is it perfect? No. But this is just it's so gross to me, especially for Phil. Like, it's gone too far. Like, the sliminess has really gone too far. Like, at this point, it's like he's leaned fully into being the villain of this.
I don't want to get too political, but... did you see the DeChambeau interview on Tucker Carlson? Did you see his quote about the pizza place and everything else?
Oh, God, no. I didn't. But, okay. I can already imagine.
Again, this is a podcast for release, but I find it hilarious, the outlets in which some of these players are going, and go read Bryson DeChambeau's pizza place analogy. It's great. It's good. Not wholesome entertainment. It's just entertaining, to say the least.
It's stupidity at its finest. Like, I feel like this has gone to the point where it's like, it's almost like not believable. It's like you're just doing this to sell yourself and make money, which is fine, but like it's starting to get a little grimy. And also shout out Tiger Woods for like, I guess, confirmed that he basically turned down $1 billion.
I mean, also shout out Tony Finau, guy that we've like ripped on for not winning.
We need to talk about this. Also, shout out his giant ass family that like showed up and was like super excited for him. I love it. I had all the feels. Like I know the tournaments aren't the greatest, but like we kind of crushed this guy for like not winning, and he like rips off back-to-back wins. I don't give a shit how the fields are. Like that's awesome. Let's do it. Yeah. No, I actually really...
When are the PGA Tour playoffs? Are not this week. I think the following week are the PGA Tour playoffs.
Okay.
So we will do some gambling on that. Absolutely. Yeah, we have to do some gambling. So, okay, last but not least, I don't know what this is about.
You can guess.
All I know.
What else have we been talking about that's not football or golf related? The people who are listening to this podcast are yelling at you right now.
Your Oakland Athletics.
No, God, I don't want to talk about baseball. I don't want to talk about it. Let's not. No. Formula One. We have to talk about something because something really crazy happened in F1, and I need to explain it to you so you can understand why now this sport has become just something that I obsess over. So basically what happened is one of the best drivers that currently is racing, he retired. Okay? He announced his retirement. I saw this the other day. Okay? Yes. So he announced his retirement. Another Formula One driver who is well respected, he's retired once. He ended up coming back. He took his seat at that other place, on the other team. Okay. There's 2 drivers per team. So he replaced him. Now there's this open seat. And they usually bring in guys, they have like a system and it's like Formula 2. And there's a driver.
That's literally the name?
Yeah, it's Formula 2.
Formula 2?
Yeah, there's Formula 3. There's Formula W, which is women's.
Really?
Awesome. Yeah.
But that's hilarious. That's very good, convenient, just down the assembly line of names.
So anyway, what happens is there's this Australian driver named Oscar Piastri. And the rumor has been that he's just going to move into the seat. He's going to get to drive in Formula One. Okay?
Okay.
So there are also rumors that another team who has 2 drivers signed is talking to this young man as well. Okay? Meaning they'd have to buy out one of their drivers, which we all know which one it is because they're very set on keeping one. So this rumor is going around. So we're like, okay, we don't really know where this driver's going to go. Next thing you know, the team that has an open seat says, oh, we signed Oscar Piastri. He's going to be our driver for next season. Mind you, this is in the middle of the night in Australia when they announce this. This kid is in Australia. He wakes up, takes to Twitter and says, without my agreement, they announced that I'm their driver. I'm not only did I not sign a contract with them, but I am not driving for them next year. Basically being like, this is my dream to be in Formula One, but not with this team. And he's also in their like racer academy. And so basically the internet exploded because that means this kid is going to get a Formula One seat next year, but it's just a matter of where. And none of the other seats are open. So somebody's going to have to move. And it's going to cause a lot of movement. But essentially...
Sounds like a recruiting story. It feels recruiting-ish.
But think about like how recruiting, it's one thing because you give like a verbal commitment. It's a letter of intent. It's not really a big deal. But like this is basically like an NBA team in free agency being like, you know what? We signed LeBron James in free agency. I guess LeBron James is a little extreme. Let me think. We signed Bronny James. Okay. Like the next big thing or something. Yeah. We signed him. And then Bronny being like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Like a team officially announced that he was signing. Did they
explain where the mix-up was?
No, I guess there was like a handshake agreement. Also, how it works is there's like driver academies for these teams. And essentially like he is in the driver academy for this team. So they think that they have the rights to him and basically can tell him to be in that spot. So I think that's where the confusion is. But it said like between that and then watching baseball like completely unfold and like Juan Soto and everything happen, and then Hosmer saying he doesn't want to go to the Nats, like it was a very fun sports day in terms of drama. And really what I'm getting at here is it was yesterday that I learned that the reason I love sports so much is because I love drama and I'm addicted to the drama. I think
yes.
I finally like am like, oh, Paige, you're totally here for the drama, whether it be like on the field.
The trade
on
deadline
the track,
is
whatever,
great.
Oh,
the trade deadline is perfect drama. Like,
is
it is
excellent drama. It normally isn't that great, but they made like the rule that like you can't. There's no more transactions after this, and so I think it became like, okay, this is when you have to make that move. And so the baseball trade deadline was great. Then you had this like crazy ass story in Formula One in terms of like, that doesn't happen in sports where people are like, yeah, people get a rumor that like, oh, that person's signing with that. But a team officially announcing that they signed someone and then not, that's wild. I've never heard of that in sports. That's
I've never
nuts.
heard of that either. All right. I am finally ready to start watching this documentary.
I'm going to force you.
It needs to happen.
By the way, I get DMs every week. After we talk about this little tiny bit of Formula One, I get DMs every week saying things about whatever topic I brought up in Formula One that week.
I do feel like on social media, I'm like out of the loop, like non-cool kid. Like everyone I follow now is into it, which is cool. Like that's great. Like I'm not against just joining the crowd. I think some people are, but no, I'm in.
What's funny is I was like really late to the party on this, and I also was never into motorsports like ever, and now I like actually care about cars, which is kind of weird because I just never have. But now I like catch myself looking to see like what kind of cars, like if I see like a nice car, I'm like, what car is that? Is that a McLaren? Like I would have never cared about that, never. And here we are caring about motorsports.
I am going to start it this week.
Yes, and you have 3 weeks until there's another race. So really...
Oh, wow. A little time off.
Yeah, it's called summer break.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that last pod.
Yeah.
All right. So speak next week.
Yes.
Big 12. I got to get my thoughts together on the Big 12.
I do too. Actually, no, I don't. Their commissioner came from my conference. Yeah. Square up, buddy.
Yes. Yeah. Your conference. So Big 12 next week. And we are like 3 weeks away from football. So
and we've got like exciting things that we like can't tell you guys yet, which we're really excited about.
We do have some really exciting things going on, some conversations that hopefully we'll have more information on soon.
Yes.
Like real stuff is happening. I'm not cursing as much anymore because I'm trying to be better. But outside of that, we have some really fun things.
We do.
The Big 12, I don't know if that would qualify as really fun, but we're going to do it anyways. I need to up my beer game, by the way. So this is actually a good one. So this is Noon Whistle, which I featured prominently in the pod. Hot Prism Blue India Pale Ale, 7.3%. So maybe I was getting loopy at the end, actually. But it's still very good. So I'm going to, for week 0, just so you know, like I'm going to be doing like a full season worth of shopping. Like I'm going to map out my season with my beer plan. So and also like temperature changes, time of the year, holidays, you name it. I'm not a big Halloween beer fan, as you know, but I do it for the greater good, starting to get in the autumn fall beers. It's going down. So I'm going to spend a good amount of money getting my beer routine in check for the pod for week 0.
Beer routine. I'm like planning which conferences we're going to preview, and Kramer's like, you know what? I got to map out my beers.
No, it is. I'm going to say this week, I'm going to get it going. So, all right. So, Pac-12 preview is done.
Tie-a-bow.
Big 12, you are up next. We will talk to you guys next week.